Wonderful.
Oh,
Recording
good.
in progress. Hi, Helen.
Hello.
Iris
Thank you for
Planning
inviting
Tarot.
me. Thank you for
I'm so
inviting
excited.
me.
Yes, I'm excited to talk to you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. And when you told me what you wanted to talk about, you made my weekend.
Well, so there are so many things that we could talk about, right? But
I know.
we
I
had to
know.
reschedule this talk because of the debate, right?
Well, before that, we got together to record and we spent so much time chatting. We used up all our time.
Yeah. But you had me
It's
looking things
terrible.
up, and I've read like 3 of the books that you recommended since that
You
time.
did which books? Which
All right, maybe.
books?
So, well, definitely the one Tell My Story. What was
Yes,
her
yes,
name?
about
June Kane.
June
What was her name?
Crane. That the
Right.
Roswell
Amazing.
stenographer
Amazing book.
lady. Isn't that crazy story?
Yeah.
Mind blowing. Mind
Yeah.
blowing.
That sent me down like a whole rabbit hole of
Yeah.
government things. And then, we have talked several times about Stefan Schwartz.
Oh,
So,
I love that person so much. What a wonderful man. I
so
feel like I've
I'm
learned
signed up
so
for his
much.
remote viewing course.
Oh, how
Oh, yeah.
fun. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
jealous. That's
a
going to be
little over
good.
$300.
I
It's a
know.
little over $300, but he gives you a copy of his book.
Well, I already
So
have
you
his
get that
book.
in PDF.
I have
Yeah,
his book.
you get a PDF of
I
his
have
book, and it's
all
like
his books.
it's amazing. So I started that last night
Oh,
and started remote viewing and everything. But anyway, so yes, the
he's
last
going
time
to
we
yell
talked, it
at
was so
you.
much
He's
fun.
going to chastise you because it's so funny. I tease him because we kind of approach the same topic from opposite worldviews a little bit, you know? He's kind of common sense, only the facts, ma'am, right? And I'm just out there in la la land, right? And we seem to meet in the middle. We agree about everything, but our terminology is different. And every time I said stuff like
Yeah.
sending good energy, he says, you're not sending anything anywhere because space and time have no meaning. So be really careful because he will correct you. But he's right. And, that
Yeah.
attitude is kind of embedded in our
Yeah.
language. It's a habit, so yeah, he's great. He's
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah.
So
He's
tell
very,
everybody.
very literal. If he's literal, he's precise. He's
Well, he's
the opposite of Trump.
precise. Yeah, well, he's precise and
Yeah.
accurate and a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
purist about research. And I'm like, I can't remember who wrote it or what the title of it
Yeah.
was or what the plot was. I just know I liked it. It's just, and he's
I remember
very
the
precise.
idea of the book.
Right. The feel of it,
Yeah.
the vibe. He's very much,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call him a materialist because he's not. I'm not sure what term to use, but he wants facts. And I appreciate that. And I don't know if you've watched
Yeah.
his Schwartz report at all on his YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but he
A couple of times, yeah.
he always seems to just hone in absolutely to the target of every issue. I always agree with him. And sometimes he puts me to shame because he sees things so clearly and he manages to toss out all the extraneous emotional nonsense and really get down to the meat of the issue. And I really appreciate that. So yeah, I love him. He's great.
Yeah. But isn't he the perfect person to start talking about what the government has been doing and the research with using remote viewing and kind of hiding that stuff or using it as a weapon? Like, I don't know if I would trust anyone other than him with his personality type for this kind of information. It all just
Yeah.
seems very different.
I knew
We are looking
a
for
lot about I knew a lot about remote viewing just over the years from reading odds and ends. I never studied it, but I know who Ingo Swann was, and I knew that what the Russians had done, and I knew what the government had done, and it was no shock to me. But I was shocked at his connection to it, and I found out about him because I like archaeology and ancient history. And I saw this book. I just ran into it somewhere called the Alexandria Project. And, I thought, okay, I'm interested in that. Little did I know it was all about a remote viewing to find lost archaeology. I almost died. I was so thrilled. I couldn't believe it. This is the best, you know. And then to look into his life, the things he's done. I don't know if you remember the story that he told about being at home. Okay, so
tell me a story.
His family has lived in the same big chunk of land in, I think, Virginia, because, facts. I think Virginia, since the 1600s.
Oh.
The exact same house. Same land. So I can only imagine the history, what it looks like. We won't go there, but I just can't even believe it. And one day, after having some frustration about, I think, a National Geographic thing that he was making, he was sitting on the porch, and he said it's 10 miles by a dirt road from his house to the road, to the public access road. And up this dirt road walked two people, a man and a woman, impeccably dressed like from the streets of Manhattan. And he's looking at them like, where did they come from? And who are they? This is weird. And immediately the whole thing took on this weird sense of unreality. Long story short, they convinced him, mostly because the young woman was cute. They convinced him to go the next day or the following weekend to Virginia Beach and visit, what's his name? Edgar Casey.
Yes, Edgar Casey.
Edgar Casey. I could see the picture. I couldn't think of it. Yes. Edgar Casey's institute, right, in Virginia Beach. He'd never heard of him. He knew nothing about him. So he had been waiting for National Geographic to get their act together about a documentary that he had been helping them with. He had been to the Middle East. They had discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, the cave at Qumran. They found out about the Essenes, that whole story. And so National Geographic was covering it, and it was on his mind, right? So he goes to Virginia Beach, and they give him a tour, and he's like, okay. He has no idea why he's there. He's thinking, well, I have nothing else to do. I'm killing time. She's cute. That was really the full limit. So they take him into this room, and he said every single wall, ceiling to floor, was shelving with binders, green binders, all around the room. And he goes, what is this? And they said, well, those are all of Edgar Casey's sessions, his hypnosis sessions. It was all recorded. His secretary, he had a thing with the secretary. Recorded it all. It was all typed up, and we kept everything. And you're welcome to look at whatever you want. He goes, okay, he has no idea what they're talking about. So he walked over randomly to a shelf, pulled a binder off the shelf, opened it up to read about Edgar Casey's session about the Dead Sea Scrolls and Qumran, and that had not been discovered. This is from the 30s. Yeah.
And he happened to pull it out.
And he was like, at a whole room full of a lifetime of these sessions. At which point he decided, I think I'm going to stay and read a few of these. And he stayed for 5 years.
I did not know that. Well, I didn't know that story.
And that's how he got involved in remote viewing. Because, one thing led to another, and he actually worked with Ingo Swann. He knew him. He, whatever. He was in on the ground floor level when it started, and he had been in the military, and I believe I'm just going to make this assertion. I have no reason to say this, but I have a feeling he probably was aware of what was going on somewhat with, the military and remote viewing and stuff.
Oh, right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just, forgive me, Stefan, if I'm lying. And it's just a gut feeling, I know. No distance, no time. And
so true.
he went on to have this illustrious life of just so many interesting things. He's worked with nonprofit programs to help people all over the world, and he's met people, just the most interesting people who've been instrumental in such really paradigm shifting programs and efforts that they don't get a lot of glory. Who did? Oh, he had a friend, and I haven't thought about this in a while, so my details are going to be shaky. But one day, while he was talking to this friend with whom he had been friend for decades, the friend just casually let it drop that he'd won the Nobel Peace Prize, helping people after the Holocaust, working with European people going back home after the Holocaust. He had won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he said he had no idea. This guy was his friend for decades and decades and decades.
And he had no idea. For somebody so, I want to say dry, like a flat affect almost, very cognitive.
Oh, he's all,
He's got a beautiful heart, it seems, although he backs everything he says that's like shows his generous nature and his heart and his caring compassion. And he goes, but I am saying this because it is all evidenced in fact. Nothing I say here has any other basis than scientific fact. And he's living,
he's living proof that physics and metaphysics are on a continuum, and they're going to meet in the middle. We're all going to figure it out. He's going to be a person pivotal in helping us come to that understanding. He's really a lovely person, and really fun to tease because he does crack. He will laugh. He does, he does.
Right, well,
he does have a sense of humor, but not when you first deal with him. It's always a little, oh God.
Yeah,
he's great.
What do you think he would say about Trump?
He's very careful not to say anything partisan, and he's very careful not to be judgmental. Now, I'm going to hell because that's all I do. It's my hobby. I judge, right? It's really hard. I think what he would say is something general, as in his 8 laws of change. He would say, we all need to live from a place of compassion, and every choice all day long needs to be based in a decision on love. Is this service to others or service for ourselves? But I don't think he would pontificate about Trump like we're going to do. I don't think he would,
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking he would say, well, the evidence suggests that this policy didn't, what Joe Biden should have done in the debate.
I have been sick all week freaking out about that. And the problem is, well, we're going to talk about it. The problem is he came up against a psychopath, and you cannot reason with them. Nothing works. And people who support Trump are desperate because of how they're brainwashed, how they were raised, what their religious beliefs are. They're desperate for a strong authoritarian leader. They want daddy to tell them what to do. And like children, they're very passive about daddy's flaws. That's irrelevant. What matters is strong man. And I have a pile of books here at my feet that I pulled to show you, what I meant. And the one that's very difficult to read, Kings, Conquerors, and Psychopaths. It's about the history of psychopaths as leaders. And it's written by a guy who is a behavioral scientist and an emergency room doctor. And all these books that I might talk about today I've done videos on. I've synopsized. You could find them on my channel. But the premise of the book is that most violent leaders have been psychopaths, Genghis Khan, Constantine, all I can't even, Alexander the Great, all of them were ruthless, without emotion, pure ego, willing to do anything to get their ambition fulfilled and the glory, right? Yeah. And today he thinks that our real psychopaths are the corporations, driving.
Yeah. So, I mean, they say that 1 out of 4 CEOs are psychopaths.
Well, and funny you should mention that.
There's more. I believe that is low. They also say that 5% of our population are narcissists. I believe that is low too. But that's what we have so far. Like narcissists and people with these personality disorders lie like they eat breakfast. They just lie all the time. And most of the people that we are studying are in prison. And so maybe they don't lie. They don't lie because they don't care. They're already in prison. But the fact is, how can you tell? Right?
You can't tell if you're being manipulated. Right. You don't know.
Or they want to tell stories.
They get pleasure from manipulating people. So how do you know what to believe? You don't. But I wrote this down because I had
but yes.
I had a funny feeling this would come up, and I always forget an important one. So
tell me.
There's a list of jobs that are the top, how do I put this? Have the most concentration of psychopaths who do well at the job. Like not all psychopaths decide to go into these jobs, but if you look at these jobs at a population of these people in these jobs, a large number of them will be psychopaths. So, and in no particular order, CEOs, lawyers, media/journalists. So that makes sense.
Doctors,
salespeople.
My family. Say it again. Salespeople. Salespeople.
Like,
they're so good at it.
Yeah.
You add that level of training and you're sunk.
Surgeons, especially neurosurgeons. And you probably realize that now we're not medical experts. We're not diagnosing anybody. We're just talking in general terms. Surgeons are awful to work with. I don't know if you have had the experience. I worked on a neurological floor. Oh my God.
Well, you also have, they are fascinated with themselves.
Oh yeah, we're going to get
right. So you can a lot of times tell who, and I'm not going to say psychopath. And she wrote this seminal book, Women Who Love Psychopaths, and it's a misnomer, really. It's just about women who have been in relationships with psychopaths and narcissists and any of the cluster B personalities, and how they did inevitable harm. Not one of these people came out. It's not a regular breakup, right?
Well, I got a couple of more jobs, couple of more professions before you go down that road.
So she calls them low to no consciousness individuals.
Right.
So that's what
Okay, so cops.
Low consciousness individuals. Yep.
After surgeons, cops. And then this is my favorite, religious leaders.
Yes.
And then chefs. The ego. Isn't that weird? Oh, you're frozen.
I could see that too.
Could you see that too?
They are kings of the kitchen. It makes so much sense. So when people are talking about Trump, right, and he has all of the characteristics of a malignant psychopath, these people are all damaging. These people that are low to no consciousness individuals are all dangerous. But Trump and the people that rise to power, like the president of the United States, right? They have to be at a level of pathology that is staggering. And that is so dangerous. He's got every single thing checked out.
Well,
They don't
I
learn
actually
from being
went
in
through.
trouble.
I went through the Robert Hare
Tell me.
psychopathic checklist revised,
The
and just
psychopathy checklist.
pulled out the features, just
Yeah.
generalized them and made a list. And I thought I'd give you the test, and you could pretend you were Donald Trump. And
Stop it, because I was going to give you the test.
Okay. I've taken it myself. I'm not a psychopath. Sorry.
No, give it to me, and I will answer like Donald Trump.
Yes, that's what I thought would be really funny.
I love that.
Oh my God, this is just a condensed version. It's not really how the test would go. The test is assessed on a scale of 1, 2, or 3. Not at all, maybe, and yes, indeed. And then they score you, and then they and what it is it looks at, it's an assessment of traits and behaviors.
Yes, I'm very familiar with it.
Well, for people who aren't, because a lot of people aren't.
Yeah. My TikTok was, when I was going through this, you get your PhD in
you lived with somebody like that. Yeah.
I was just surrounded. So
surrounded. They're everywhere.
Well, a lot of times that's where we find that's how it came about. That's how it came to be. Like, we were just familiar with being demeaned, dismissed, and then
you don't even realize it.
Yeah, like that. So I would have things like this that you're doing right now on my TikToks and stuff like that. So let's go.
Okay, so Donald, superficial charm.
What kind of test is this? What are we doing? Superficial charm? I have charm. I have more charm than that slow Joe Biden.
Beautiful charm.
Definitely.
Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
You guys, beautiful charm, huh?
Poor judgment.
I have the best judgment.
Failure from experience.
Like, see how you would get a psychopath to answer these?
Yeah.
It's even hard to, like, what would he say to this?
Well, they're living on another dimension.
I learn everything. I'm the best learner there is.
Well, that's that pathological ego. That's that narcissism, right? That malignant narcissism. And then then these things are a little hard to answer, but they don't evince love. It's like they don't really feel love. Now, there's this weird conflation of sociopath and psychopath. They're not the same thing, and sociopath is kind of an outdated term. But if you had to make a distinction, sociopath is usually somebody that, in reference, it's not really accurate, but it's usually somebody who is this way because of environment, trauma, abuse, whatever.
Okay.
And then a psychopath, they're born that way. And so sociopath may have a little bit more capacity to form some superficial emotional bonds. They may feel a little guilty about the crimes they've committed. They're usually more chaotic, have trouble keeping jobs, trouble getting through school, trouble maintaining relationships. Psychopaths tend to be
more impulsive,
chameleons. You won't know. Yeah. So they don't feel shame.
And
they don't
deliberate.
Feel
they'll stalk and plan, plot, and strategize.
Yes.
Different kinds.
It can be impulsive. Yeah. They have that air of grandiosity. You do grandiosity very, very well, Jody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I got it down.
They have this gigantic notion of their own self-worth, that which is egotism, but then malignant narcissism is something even sicker. There's they do have it like a Venn diagram where they overlap, but there's a slight difference.
And they believe it too.
Oh, absolutely.
They believe it.
Oh, too. That's what's so weird. Pathological lying.
And they don't even realize it's lying. That's why it's pathological. It's not the number of times that makes it pathological. The pathology is that they believe their own lies. And I think people don't understand that part of it. This really is a neurological defect.
It is. Yeah, it really is.
And it is genetic.
Manipulation. They get their kicks out of torturing people, manipulating people. We'll talk about the torture part later. They have poor self-control. They're, well, which we know, spaghetti on the wall. They're promiscuous, Stormy Daniels. Juvenile delinquency. Now, do you know anything at all about his childhood?
I don't. I don't think that we are meant to.
Stories. Oh, no. I have a couple of stories. His niece, Mary Trump, who is a psychotherapist, she wrote a couple of books. And the first book she wrote about him, she told some family stories. She talked out of school. For example, when he was a kid, I don't know how old, I'm thinking middle school. I don't know why I think that, but I'm thinking if I remember, it was like that age.
Okay.
12-ish.
I mean, it makes sense.
He was caught throwing stones at the baby that lived next door. Little, probably a toddler. Okay. His brother had a favorite truck, like a Tonka truck, and one day it disappeared, and decades later somebody else in the family found it hidden in the attic. Trump had hidden it away from his brother just to torture his brother. It was really cruel to him, really, really cruel. He was cruel to animals. He was just cruel. Finally, they could not control him. They could not deal with him. And they sent him to a military academy.
Yeah, how did he get through that, I wonder? How did he get through that?
I don't know. I wonder myself. I've thought about that. I wonder if he kind of formed a bond.
You got to know somebody or pay them.
Well, he kind of formed a bond with one of the guys in charge, and I wonder if maybe this guy manipulated him by feeding his ego and, give him a little extra braid to wear, whatever. I don't know. Oh, and then criminal versatility.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Criminal versatility. So a person who would steal, a person who would lie, a person who would defraud on contracts, renege on agreements with subcontractors, molest and attack people, I don't know, commit treason. It's all one and the same thing.
Not all psychopaths or not all low to no consciousness people are criminals at all.
They're not criminals like violent criminals, but white collar crimes.
No, they're not all.
Not all of them, but
there are lots and lots of narcissists that, say they have money. They have tons of money. Lots of narcissists have money. If that is their thing, that is what they're going to have. They're going to have money and they're getting a lot of it. But it would be a thrill for them to steal from someone knowing they're not going to get caught if they're pretty sure. So maybe they'll get caught, maybe they won't, but they'll do it like for the thrill, even though they don't.
Yeah.
People are shoplifting that don't need to shop.
Yeah, they don't
something like
feel. They don't feel, so they're always looking for thrills because the adrenaline is some kind of a feeling, an experience of feeling. So they'll do things like helicopter ski and skydive and scuba dive, and they'll do these really challenging physical activities that are scary because they produce adrenaline. But not all narcissists are psychopaths. All psychopaths are narcissists, but not all narcissists are psychopaths. So you can be a narcissist and not commit crimes, but if you're a psychopath, the rules don't apply to you.
Right. And I think that when we're talking about just psychopaths, right, and we're really talking about the worst of the worst, we miss people that are just as dangerous in our everyday lives, whether they're our boss, our parent, a babysitter, like people just in our sphere that are close, right? People who get bored very easily. Right. So,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, there are
people that are. So when we have this conversation and people are listening to this conversation, I want them to come away from this not needing a Trump-like figure for it to be so obvious.
It can be very subtle because they really enjoy the manipulation. And if you give away the
Yeah.
game, it's no longer fun, right? So
Right.
it'll be like this. You'll get a job and you'll work with
Yeah.
somebody who is nice to you on the surface. That's that superficial charm. They'll
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of groom you to think like a serpent luring you to think that they're a good person, and then that they like you, and
Yeah.
that they're all about helping you in your job. And then the next thing you know, they've stabbed you in the back. They've set you up
Right.
for some sort of situation. They've gone and
Right.
lie to the boss, or they've created trouble with paperwork, and it's
Yeah.
all
But they don't do this
subtle.
to everyone.
No, they pick
No.
victims.
First of all, when they're coming, they're scanning the environment. They're asking you about you. They're watching you. If you're somebody that is their competition, or if they want your job, or they need something, it has to be something. You are important to them for some reason. Otherwise, you literally don't exist. They've got a great memory.
Unless they're bored and they know that they can toy with you. It's like a cat playing with a mouse. There's nothing in it for the cat, just passing the time. It's cruelty.
If they're sadistic, not all
Yes.
narcissists are sadistic either.
Sure.
Psychopaths,
Sure.
I'm not really sure, but I would imagine that they enjoy all of it. All of
there's this thing
the
called
sadism and the hurt and the power.
Yeah. There's
But
this
not all
thing called
narcissists are sadistic. Yeah.
No, they've identified this thing called the dark tetrad, and it's
Oh.
4 components that kind of cover what you're talking about. So there's the narcissism, which is all about ego. It's all about me, right? Then there's the psychopathy, which is the lack of empathy and the willingness to use people. Then there's what's called Machiavellianism, and that's when they will manipulate people to their own ends. It's slightly different from a psychopath using people. This is more like politicians do this all the time.
They have the ability to wait years if they have to.
That's awful.
They will play the long
terrible.
game, and they're very deliberate, but it's just what they do. And, it's just what they do, and they do it very, very well. So,
and then, of course, the 4th component is sadism, and we all know what that is. They enjoy pain. They enjoy causing pain in other people. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So, have we determined?
And that's actually one of the easiest ways, the easiest things to see is the sadism. Even on, let's say, a first date or something. I remember doing this TikTok and hoping that it really helped people. What do they find funny?
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Find funny? What jokes do they tell? What do they laugh at when you so obviously if they are sadistic, they will have outrageous jokes that are making fun of people.
Yeah.
In some way or another.
You go out with somebody and they are just dismissive or rude to waiters and taxi cab drivers and helping people, people that are doing those jobs that are paid not very much and they take a lot of abuse. It's the narcissists, it's the psychopaths, the sociopaths who torture people. And
would politicians do that? Would politicians do that? No. We can't ever mistake politeness and manners for caring.
Oh, true. Very true.
Right?
Yeah. Right, I agree.
A lot of these things, yes, these are such red flags that we all, hopefully, after this big narcissism boom, after the last 5 years, people all know about narcissism. They know what the word love bombing means. The red flags, narcissists, it's being thrown around all the time. That's fine. Whether it's true or not, people are at least aware of it now. Now I'd like to roll it back a little bit and say, listen, they aren't all like this. And really
not all
have
obvious.
Your eyes open.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to hear your story.
People. What?
Do you have not to identify anybody, but do you have a real clear example of an experience that you've gone through with the narcissist to sort of show people what it can be like?
I think I'll do that in the future, probably. writing a lot about it. I hope,
Oh, okay. Oh, I'd be interested in reading that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it really, I mean, it just broke me in so many ways, you know.
It's hard to
100,
talk about.
well, yeah. I did so much talking about it for years, you know, like I said, my TikTok channel and um helping survivors. And I'm getting back to talking about it a little bit because I want what I've learned. I want people to know a little bit.
Yeah.
Just having this conversation with you,
Well, that's what we
and
can
hearing what you're
do.
saying, like,
Yeah.
yes, and tell them all about, like, these are the studies of, you know, how do you know that you were in a relationship with a low to no consciousness individual? You know, you're wrecked. You know, number one, you're confused. You know, that's what I would say to people. Like, are you thinking that you're in one? Are you not? Are you confused? And that's the reason you answered this TikTok, or you clicked on this TikTok, because it said, do you think you're in a relationship with a low to no consciousness individual? You're seeing it because you're confused. It's inherent in the question I pose,
Had some
right?
encounters with
Um,
people who
because
were
you're living with Jekyll and Hyde.
yeah, there's that. But I've been
You're having a
involved.
relationship with two different people.
Yeah, yeah. Um, my experience has been more of
Right.
having to deal with somebody that's manipulative and not terribly warm and in a
Mm-hmm.
position of perceived authority
Mm-hmm.
or hierarchical, extended family stuff. And
Right. Yep. That
my
makes sense. Yeah.
reaction was to feel badly about myself and think, oh, there's got to be a way that I can find common ground with this person. This is, so
Yes. Yes.
ridiculous.
Yes. Yes.
That I just want to,
Yes.
kumbaya. I'm not in the mood. I don't want to,
Like,
but it's
yep.
impossible. And it's so
That's right.
mind blowing
That's
the
right.
first time you experience somebody like that. There's just nobody home
Yeah.
emotionally, and they're difficult
Yeah.
for the joy of being difficult. And I'm not
The
talking
best
about
thing
like
they
a
can do
date.
is fake. The best thing they can do is fake.
Well, they like to
That literally.
control
Have you
other
heard of James
people.
Fallon? No, I mean,
Yes, the
the best
doctor.
thing they can do
Yeah.
is, yes, the doctor. The best thing they can do is fake. And what he said was, he would say, "What would a good guy do?"
His
That's what he
his
would ask
story is
himself. What would a
very
good
his
guy do?
story is interesting, isn't it?
It's fascinating. And here's another way to identify these people, is because if you're really interested in psychopathy, you're either a victim of one or you are one. Like, everything is
Oh,
extreme. Yeah,
yeah.
for the most part. Honestly, for the most part. Um, or you're a real people watcher and you can't understand these people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
You can't.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But who is there? That's what Sandra L. Brown talks about, is like, listen, I was a therapist and we're supposed to be helping these men. And this is from 20 years ago. So all of her patients were men. And they just, first of all, they didn't want to change. If they had to, like court mandated to change, they still couldn't, no matter what. She said, but then I had all these women that were left with nothing. There was nobody there for them. And she does use the
Yeah.
gender roles because that's the way it was when she was doing this. That's who was there. So at least now we know they're female psychopaths, and we understand that it is a form of domestic violence. We understand what coercive
Mhm.
control is, and we're getting the education out there. But yeah, that's another red flag, is, they're fascinated by psychopaths. They're fascinated in mental health and psychopathy.
Well, they
So you said you
study
worked on
them.
a,
Yeah.
yes. And they study people. They study people.
God, I'm
Yeah,
starting
they
to feel
don't understand
uncomfortable.
emotion.
Maybe I better take that
Yeah,
test again.
that's right. That's right. No, but I would bet, Helen, that you have experience in that was
Oh, yeah.
much more coercive.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
patriarchal. And it
Bingo.
didn't meet the level of, so you're either a victim or traits
Probably,
of,
yeah. It would be
yeah,
really fascinating to be able to see into the past enough to go back a couple of generations, because I am really curious about, like, great, 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 going back that far, because this is genetic and familial, both in biology and in behavior. And the stories that I've heard about my family going back, I go, well, of course. That explains a lot.
right,
And we make excuses.
right. And
We
again, it's
feel
extreme. Yeah.
responsible. And eventually you get to the point where the light starts to dawn. And it's really valuable to read those firsthand experiences of other people who've figured some of this stuff out. I just got a book. I can't believe I didn't bring it upstairs with me. I haven't read it yet. I haven't had time. It's written by a woman who she calls herself a sociopath. And I saw her interviewed very briefly, which is why I got the book. She talked about, as a child, knowing she was different, not caring, just not understanding why she didn't have these emotions other people had, and she would fake them. And there was a point in her life as a younger teenager, I think, or maybe a little older preteen, where she started going down a bad path and doing bad things. And she finally realized, and this is where the psychopathy or the sociopathy actually helped her. She realized, oh, wait a minute, I have goals. And if I screw up everything by getting in trouble and getting caught and going down that road, I'm not going to be able to achieve my goals. So it's to my advantage to behave a certain way. And she has learned, she's married, and she's learned how to negotiate human relationships. And she does feel unmuted. And she says, yeah, I love my husband, but I'll tell you, I'll read the book and I'll tell you the details more when I finish.
Yeah, it's their definition of love. We have completely different. If you've never seen the ocean, you can say you saw the ocean in the book and you saw a picture of it, but you don't know what the ocean is. So, I mean, these are just words, and they don't understand emotion. They understand actions, and they understand the feeling they get in response to our emotions. Right? That's
she's so smart. I think she's so intelligent that she was able to figure out, and this is Machiavellian, right? She was able to figure out, listen, I have to be.
She's writing a book about it. She's making it work for herself.
That's right. Come on. Yeah. But at least she's not committing crimes anymore, and she's reaching out, and it's profit for her. And I'm sure the motivating reason why she did it, but it's still helpful. It's still helpful to hear
if
this.
If it's not profit driven, it's just ego driven. Whatever their particular thing is, they are all not money driven, sex driven, and power driven. It can be just one of them.
Yeah.
Just one. Yeah. But whatever it is that they want, that's what it's all about. And so these self-aware narcissists kept popping up and got very, very popular. Then they started giving coaching to the victims. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
There are so many out there. Oh, well, I want to, they think that they're changed, even though the narcissist, the psychopath will tell you, you don't want me. Like, I am still like this. That's what they'll say in videos. But, they say one thing and do another. But there's a whole industry out there for victims getting re-victimized and not getting the healing they need. Oh, just don't think about the narcissist. It's like but they think they know everything.
Yeah. Well, then
I
think
get to talk about themselves all day long.
And I think our culture nurtures narcissists. The people that always come to my mind as the ultimate example, and this is just, allegedly entertainment purposes only, the Kardashians. And they're just completely self-obsessed, and you get drawn in. I find myself staring and trying to figure out what is it. It's so weird. It's such a foreign worldview to spend your whole entire day doing your makeup and your hair so that you can have pictures taken of yourself, so you can look at yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And here we are talking on a screen. That's hilarious, right?
and so many, I mean, you can, what I call like boats in baseball. They'll talk about superficial things, on a first date. You talk about the books that you've read. Well, unless it's like an intellectual narcissist, they'll talk about books and stuff. But other than that, any of the other narcissists, low to no empathy, consciousness individuals will talk about what they ate, where they went, other people, maybe sports if they're into sports, but ideas, genuine thoughts, no. So those vapid conversations and things to do.
Shallow affect. Yeah. Can I recommend a channel for you that you might I think you would be really interested in it. I did recommend it before, and some of my subscribers to my channel got a little mad at me because they thought this guy was too mean. Well, yes, because he's a narcissist, he's a psychopath, and he's a sadist, and he fully admits it. That's what his channel is all about. You never see him. You only hear him.
Wait, is it Sam Valka?
No. H Tudor.
H.G. Wells? Tudor.
No, H Tudor.
I used to listen all the time.
Wow.
Because I had these on repeat. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, when I was coming out of it, it took me years. And finally, I'd put a piece together, put another piece together, and another piece together. Yeah. He can
be really mean about the people that he's targeting to criticize. And what he likes to do is to take famous people. He especially hates Hare and Meghan. And he's English. I think that might be why. Or at least he's pretending.
Does he think Meghan is a narcissist?
Yes. Oh, yes.
He does?
Yes. Oh, he talks about it quite a bit. And when you start watching what he's talking about, and then you listen to behavior analysis from other people, it's like, oh, okay, I see what they're all saying. And this is really weird, but it's whatever. But he does these videos about famous people and focuses on the kinds of things they talk about, like you were saying, and their behaviors. I'm laughing because he recommended something and I watched it and it cracked me up. So what's the name of that show? It's a cartoon, animation. South Park. I
was going to say South Park.
Yeah. They did a half an hour thing on Harry and Meghan. And Harry and Meghan were going on a worldwide privacy tour. And everywhere they went, they ended up in South Park, but everywhere they went, they were carrying signs that says, we want to be alone. Give us our privacy. Stop taking pictures of us. And they're wandering around making speeches and protesting publicly and trying to get on camera and demanding their privacy. Nobody will leave us alone. We told you, haven't you been listening to us? It's just really funny.
I would spend, or I have spent more time looking at Harry, because you can look and see if the narcissist or psychopath is one or not. But the tell is the deterioration of the partner. Now, I can see why, if Meghan is a narcissist, why she would pick Harry. Because Harry's always been the underdog. He's always been in trouble. He's right next to his golden boy brother, and he's, in his family, you don't want to be like Harry. You want to be like William. Harry has always had to be the naughty one, not as good as his brother one, always
Let me
looking up.
ask you something.
That is who the narcissist is going to pick.
Let me ask you something.
Absolutely. All day
Do,
long. Yep.
do you think Charles is really his father?
Good question.
You know that rumor. You do not, you know the story, right?
No, tell me. Oh my God, what?
Oh, this is I'm
Who
going to
is it?
hell. I love gossip. Okay. So here's the story. What was her name? Diana.
Yeah.
She and Charles were, not
Yeah.
doing well. And
Right.
they had the first kid. And
Yeah.
then they were having real difficulties. And she was
Yeah.
very fond of her. I think this guy was a horse master or a polo guy. He was in some way connected
Oh,
to horses.
oh,
Red hair, handsome guy. And she comes
that
up
makes so much
pregnant
sense.
and has the baby. The baby, Harry looks just like him. In my
Yeah.
allegedly, entertainment purposes only. We're just having fun here. It looks just like him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So
Isn't
they can
that?
say, they have that deal, like you do what you want, I do what I want, and then whatever.
But
So
it's a
many of
real
them do that.
problem
That
though,
makes sense.
because of that whole
Yeah.
stupid royalty line, the whole
Right.
they have to be
Right.
genetically whatever. It's so stupid.
Yeah. See, to me, Harry looks okay. I mean, we don't see everything, but he looks okay. He looks, measured and happy, and they're getting through it. And so I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And
Well, it's interesting
about
what I've
that
heard,
one.
what I've read about it is
Yeah.
being separated from family, friends, culture, heritage, lineage,
Yeah.
money.
That's the start of it.
Yeah, that's the red flag for me. And I saw a really
Yep.
interesting
Little by
thing.
little by little, they,
You can watch
yeah,
them in public appearances. I
always
guess
move you
they
away.
they did a tour of Africa. I don't know when this was, but I was watching a
Mm.
behavioral panel talking about it. And they said, so look at this.
Mm.
So she will not let a woman stand beside Harry. It doesn't matter how old, who the person is, like a head of state. They're in Africa, and some of the women that they interacted with were like prime ministers and stuff. But she didn't care. Every time they'd stand next to Harry for a photographic opportunity, she'd move them. She'd insert herself to keep him away from other women. And she does this weird thing. And once it's pointed out, you can't not see it. She always
Mm.
keeps her hand on his back. She guides him where he's going to go. She stops him if she doesn't like who he's talking to. It's like a ventriloquist's puppet. It is the strangest thing. And
Yeah.
it's
And it
subtle.
looks like, oh, look at, she's so sweet. She's always touching him. They're always together. And it's,
Yeah. And
I
I've
can't
been
walk,
married a
talk, or sit.
long, long, long time. And I don't think I have ever done that with my husband. I just, I don't feel the need to
It's why
guide him
people
along.
are so shocked when people will say, "Oh my God, you guys are getting a divorce? Really? You look so in love." Because they're always together. The couples that are always together, and they're like, "Oh, they're best friends. They're whatever." Well, you can't get out of the way. You can't go and do anything by yourself, or
Yeah, that's not healthy.
pathological jealousy.
You have to have a life of the
That's
mind that's
coercive control. Yeah,
independent. Yeah, you have to be able to do that. If you can't
yeah, yeah.
find resources within yourself to entertain a portion of your day, and if you always have to cling to another person, that's a red flag. I have a
Right.
dog like
But it
that.
does
She's right over here.
But it
She's
does
over.
appear like the perfect couple or like
Yeah,
soulmates. And I
yeah,
think
you're
that
right.
our
Yeah,
society really idealizes this romance, and this
yeah,
romance that goes on for years and years and years. And oh, look at that husband. He's so wonderful. He doesn't sit around and, watch football all weekend. He's, with his wife. Or look at that woman. She's always by his side, no matter what, through thick and thin. Like, that's not glorious. That's sick. you know,
It's very
but we
dependent. Yeah.
romanticize it. Yeah, it's very dependent. And even, yeah, going to counseling, a lot of people will, and a lot of therapists will encourage codependent relationships because they say that the parents need to be so tight, work on your relationships first. And then it goes down to the children. Well, what happens if you're having difficulty in your relationship with somebody that
Yeah.
has
It's
like the
controlling.
pathological jealousy of this
Yeah.
woman? You think
Remind me to
therapy is
tell
going to
you a
help? So then when do you
story.
get to the kids?
Remind me to tell you a story. I don't want to do it publicly, but remind me to tell you a story that is going to make the hair stand up in the back of your head. Don't let me forget, because I'll forget.
I
Yeah.
got the last one. Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of that kind of thing, and a great way
Yeah.
to study human behavior is to watch reality TV, especially TV
Yeah.
that has to do with relationships. So things like
Yeah.
one of my absolute favorites I can no longer watch because we changed our carrier and I don't get it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Breaks my
Yeah,
heart.
yeah.
Love After Lockup. Have you ever seen that?
No. I'm like, what?
This is must see TV. I got to tell you. So the premise of this show is
Can't wait.
Couples who met while one of them was incarcerated. They became pen pals, and then the person in jail gets let out, and then it hits the fan because they,
Stalker. Who wants this?
stalker, manipulator, user, criminal. Still, it's really painful sometimes, and sometimes the person who was not in jail is the one who's delusional. It's really really interesting. Really, yeah. They pick this person because they don't really have to interact. They have the illusion of a relationship, but they don't. They're locked up. They don't have to deal with them. Then there's another
Whenever
great one.
anybody tells me that they are having a long distance relationship, any long distance relationship, I am already suspect. Are all long distance relationships narcissistic? No. No, they are not. But there are so many long distance relationships.
I guess I don't know. I don't know any.
Way.
Yeah, I don't know anybody. In that situation anymore.
They met online, then somebody moved all the way, and then once they moved, they were somebody like, yeah.
That's insane.
That's such a red flag too. Not all, but it is something. Or
well, I'm going to generalize.
The minute you move in together.
I'm going to generalize shamelessly right now, and I know that this is not true for everybody, and part of it is my generation, but I automatically mistrust love relationships that are all about being online. I just feel like, I don't know, you have to be in the same room with somebody and read their energy and get to know them.
You mean how they met, or?
Well, a lot of people will meet that way and carry on for a long time that way, before they actually get together. And I think, I don't know, I just feel like there's too much space for dishonesty.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely.
You get old enough, you start not trusting people, not believing people.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, and it's so hard to trust after that. How many people's lives are ruined because they can't trust people. So Sandra L. Brown calls psychopathy the secondhand smoke of mental health. The way it just pervades society.
Hurts people.
And they just leave a trail of hurt people behind them, and they go on like nothing. Right. And the victims are just left. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And often left wondering what they'd done wrong.
Yes. And when you get a chance, look up the 8 super traits of survivors.
Okay. So you write that down.
8 super traits of survivors. And many of the victims will say, well, I was codependent. Why did you stay? I was codependent. They're actually not only 40% were diagnosed as being codependent. The other 60% had high consciousness, wanted to work together, wanted to follow through, very high empathy, and essentially were projecting their traits onto somebody else. Does that mean that they're perfect? Are empaths perfect? No.
Yeah.
Empaths can manipulate, lie, do all of those things, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
inherently, we have empathy. It exists in us. That's
Yeah,
the
like you
difference.
care, right?
It,
I have a great
yes.
story for you. And
Okay.
I'm going to be a little bit cautious. I don't want to be too identifying, but there was a
Okay.
person in my life that was known to a lot of the people around me. And one by one, they sort of jettisoned this person for the same
Okay.
things that I found disturbing, but I tried very hard to be compassionate, made excuses,
Mm-hmm.
and none of it was horribly damaging. It was more rude behavior, dismissive
Yeah.
behavior, angry behavior, but
Yeah.
not in a place where any damage could be done, just getting in a huff and marching off, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I kind of laugh about it, and then I tell people, wait till you hear this is what this person has done now. And they say, Helen,
Yeah.
why are you still interacting? And I'd say, well, I do feel
Yeah.
sorry for this person, and I do know
It's
a little bit
crazy.
about
Yeah.
their background, and
Yep.
their
Yep.
background, they're damaged, they're
Yeah.
damaged goods. And do we just
Yep.
reject everybody? Finally, it just
Yep.
got to be too much. One day, this person called me up and was saying, well, I'm going to move, and I've been looking at houses. Now, this is a couple of years ago, and there was something weird going on with the housing market. I don't remember what it was. And I said, oh, well, you know what I heard? Watch out for this. Be careful of this, because a thing you would say to any friend, right? Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
going to go buy a used car, keep your eye on this, that kind of thing. And so I said,
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
careful of this particular issue, because this has been happening for people and it's been a bad experience. Oh my God, this person went insane on the phone. Absolutely insane. Yelled at me for, kind of harshing the buzz, right? And
Oh,
then hung up. And I thought, okay, you know what? The hanging up was the part that finally got to me. I thought, yeah, that's just
yeah.
rude. You don't need to be
They're
rude.
extremely fragile. Extremely
Oh,
fragile.
yes. So I wrote,
For such
I
a
don't,
big balloon, they're very easy to pop.
yeah. And I don't like to do
Yeah.
this because I don't like to, I want to
Yeah.
interact as much as possible on a human level and not through emails and stuff, but there was really no option. And I wrote an email and I said, look, I'm really sorry, but I can't do this anymore. This was really rude. It's one of a long series of rude things, and my tolerance has just worn out. And I really hope you get some help dealing with that anger. Oh my God. The response I got, attack. Okay.
Was it?
Didn't respond anymore. And
Yeah.
there was no follow up of the relationship. It just sort of petered out.
Mad
But
at you for being mad.
I was the bad
Mad
guy.
at you
Yeah.
for being mad. Yeah.
Yeah. But fortunately, I'd had so much time to think about this. I had taken so many couple years of interacting and trying to figure out what was going on and trying to understand that by the time it finally came to its final ugly head, I was okay.
Yeah.
It was not a big deal. It was way overdue. I felt
Yeah.
good that I'd given that much leeway, you know. But
Yeah. It's like I have tried every single thing
mhm,
multiple times
yeah,
that I could think to do. I'm
yeah.
out of options.
Well,
That's
the
where we go.
narcissistic response back really put the icing on the cake. And I went, okay,
Yeah.
here's my proof. This is the proof that I should have seen 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's no fixing that. There's no making that better. You can be a friend in need forever and ever and ever, and it's never going to change. It's always going to be this way. It's really sad. It's a personality type.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it is pervasive, chronic and pervasive. They do not change.
How many people do you think around most of us are like that? Because I just don't associate with people anymore. So I don't know. Since the lockdown,
So here's the thing is when we talk about, I want to be really specific, and we can go through this psychopathy checklist. We can talk about how they're always bored or they're impulsive. They have difficulty learning certain things from their behavior. That, we can do all of that and really study that and look for red flags and all of that. But what it comes down to, all of those other things are symptoms of not being able to process emotions that are related to empathy.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Every single symptom goes back to that. If you don't have empathy, then you don't have remorse. If you don't have empathy and feelings, your adrenaline is driving you, right? Your feelings aren't driving you.
Exactly.
You're either thinking or you're feeling, and you need to move and you need to go and you need to all of that. The diagnosis is also low to no empathy. So there are plenty of times when they will be empathetic. Their family roles are very enmeshed. So they have kids, right? Either they're a bad kid or the kid is just like them, a mini me. And so then it looks like, well, it can't be a narcissist psychopath. Like, they love that kid. No.
It's not about love. It's about using.
Well, no, they love them as much as they love themselves.
They see the kid as an extension of themselves, right?
Exactly. So it's not so much other. So that's one part of it. Plus, yes, they can have empathy up to a point. It's low empathy. That is dangerous enough to have low or no empathy.
Yeah.
To have empathy for animals. They can have empathy for animals. Not all of them are out there pulling the wings off a butterfly.
Right.
Not all of them are sadistic. You just, as long as you keep paying attention to them, they don't get mad.
Well, it's a continuum of, continuum of behaviors. So they're not all a certain kind of thing. There can be any combination to any degree of all those sorts of behaviors. I wonder, when it comes to love relationships.
So given that, I would say like 10%.
Oh, like well, 10%, yeah, 1 out of 100. No, that is the statistic. 1 out of 100. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. So here's my question. Yeah. It's a whole different kettle of fish when it's an intimate partner or love relationship or a dating relationship. That's a situation. But and when it's a family member, then that's a different set of challenges. But when it's an employer, or a coworker. And I think a lot of us face that. And what do you do?
So hard.
Real hard.
Yes. That is very, very hard. Yeah, very hard, because you're stuck. You're stuck at that job. And people are like, well, go leave. Just get another job or whatever. But, it is never, ever, ever that easy. And what if your boss is, you can't get another job because you have to have your boss give you a referral or something? Like, there are always ways.
Oh, my kids have complained to me in the past, about people that they've worked with or for. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get another job. And my advice to them is always, you know what? There's always one. There's always at least one in every job. There's always somebody who's just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, You
can't go to a job. You can't go to any job, I don't think, and not have them around you. So the best case scenario is you're able to spot them. And that, I think, we should all be able to do. And how do we do that? Is we work on ourselves, our woundings, and we have these conversations. We have these conversations.
Should we ask the cards? I'm dying to use these United States of America cards. These
is Donald Trump going to get remarried?
Oh, I never thought about that. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Just gut feeling.
You think he's going to get divorced?
Ivanka's married already.
Yeah.
So I don't think that he'll. Do I think he's going to get divorced? I think that she wants to desperately, but I think she's tied down by a prenup. And there's some weird agreement going on, and she's not happy about it. I think it's just obvious. This is nothing psychic. It's completely obvious.
Do you not know this? He bought her from the Russian mob.
I do know that. I do.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I'm like, how do you get out of that?
Okay, the cult of Trump. This is about the brainwashing, and it's great for, even if it's not Trump that's the cult for you, it's very good about brainwashing. This is 2 books by Greg Olear, who's a wonderful, wonderful writer. Wonderful writer.
Olear, how do you say? I always said Greg Olear. Okay.
Yeah, he when I first met him, I knew it was Greg Olear because I listened to his podcast, and he was saying, now it's not apostrophe. Later he says, I'm not Irish. I might be, but I was like, no, I knew that.
Okay.
But in this book, he does a great sort of summation of Trump's association with.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this one, it's looking at the future, predicting what a second administration and Project 2025 would be like. This book, I can't recommend this book enough.
I think I have that in my phone and have
American Compromat.
Yeah.
Compromat is a Russian word, and it kind of means like blackmail, kind of. And it's all about how the intelligence services in Russia use Americans, even when they don't know they're being used. They call them useful idiots. That's a term, a spy term in Russia. But this actually connects 45 Russia. And then I've got a couple of books here on my favorite topic in the whole wide world, which is white Christian nationalism. These are great books. Christopher Hedges and Kristen Cobes Dumas. This is a really good book. It helps a little bit to understand the fundamentalist worship of Trump. This is a little bit more into the weeds with the same topic, the flag and the cross. And then I think everybody this should be required reading. This was my problem with the debate, is that Biden needed to go out there and be a bigger blusterer and loudmouth than Trump was, and that backfired. And that's what people want. People who want a strong man, they want somebody to come out, only I can solve it, and I know everything. That subset of damaged people, that's what they want. I'm not saying that's good, and that's not what we want, but this is how Mussolini got into control, and how his pal in Germany got into control, and Stalin. And it only takes 15% of the population to tilt a government in that authoritarian direction. And then if you really want to torture,
working on us for decades.
Yeah.
They've been, whittling us down, poking us for decades.
Oh, this is good. Down, this is by Miles, what I want to say Miles Standish, that's not right. This guy worked with Trump, and then he wrote this book as a warning. Do you remember who is anonymous? We're going to uncover him, and he's going to be in trouble.
Who is it?
Yeah, well, he finally came out and told who he was. I think he worked Homeland Security. I think he was a deputy to the woman that was in charge of Homeland Security at the time that Trump fired. And
Oh,
his name, Miles. Oh my God.
and he's still with us?
Oh yeah, he's still around. He's a lot on
Amen. Okay.
on television. Now this book
Okay.
is a hard book. I would only recommend this book if you really want to get into the psychology of it big time. Group of students in Eastern Europe, beginning of World War II, realized that they were medical students, psychology students, psychiatric students, and they realized there is nothing that we can do. But what we can do is try to help future generations. So they did intensive medical psychiatric studies of these leaders, and not just the leaders, but the second tier, the petty bureaucrats, the Gestapo chief and the mayor in your town, that kind of thing. And the truth is, you know, the big pharma, this is a fact, big pharma did not want psychiatrists to not depend on psychotropic medication. So they put pressure on the psychiatric profession, the American Psychiatric Association, to not diagnose unless you did all these studies so that they could justify medication, right? Okay. But I listened to a woman who's a psychiatrist at Yale, and she said the truth is that 90% of a psychiatric diagnosis is just done by observation. And so she's the one who wrote the book and got all the people who were in the profession to warn us that he was a danger in 2016. So this book, they did sort of the same thing. They kind of psychoanalyzed these guys. They tried to figure out what their trauma was, what their problems were, how it would manifest. And they used that to be predictive about likely behavior of people. Ponerology means the study of evil. This is the study of how people rise in politics as the evil, you know, the sickness, the pathology. And it's a really hard book to read. It took me forever. And look what a small book it is. You know, it's one of these books where you read a paragraph and then you go back and read the paragraph again. And then you read it the third time and you're still like, what did I just read?
You're an average book for me.
No, I'm just like, oh my God, my head hurts. And then Timothy Snyder on tyranny. And then this is about the family. This is not about the Manson family. There is another book called The Family. This is not about the Manson family. This is about the white Christian nationalists who've been working on us for decades and how they took over in Washington and what has been going on in Washington. People like Leonard Leo.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So, that's my little collection.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, look up 8.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Super traits.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
8 super traits of survivors, and I should look at Greg O'Lear. Is that our homework?
If you don't have time to read his book, I synopsized both of them. And then he came on my channel and we had lengthy discussions about both books. He is a wonderful person. The first time I asked him to come on, I'm always, I'm like, who am I? They're going to see Irish Granny Tarot. They're going to run for the hills, right? Yeah. But I thought, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. So I emailed him and I said, listen, don't let the name of my channel dissuade you. I'm totally serious about this. And it's not going to be some weird thing. And his response was, what are you talking about? I start out every morning with a tarot card to see how the day is going to go.
So wonderful. Wonderful. I love that. So you have some amazing people. You really have some amazing people.
Hey, and also people are great.
Yeah. Yeah. Irish Granny Tarot, and you have a Substack, Ask Irish Granny Tarot.
Ask your Irish Granny.
Ask your Irish Granny. Okay. Do you have one question or ask for help that sticks out in your mind?
Well, I just did one. Yesterday, and I worked on it for a couple of days. I don't get a lot of questions. I don't exactly have Ann Landers following, and I've kind of run out of manufactured problems and problems that I've seen in friends' houses and stuff. I was really hitting the bottom of the well. And people kept asking me this question, and I didn't associate it as the kind of thing that I could talk about. And then the debate happened, and somebody again asked me, and I thought, oh, duh, this is the question that I can ask. So I did a little essay, maybe in the form of a letter. What can we do to cope with this situation? This political environment that we're in that is pulling our society apart. What can we do about it? Most of us are without power, without money, without position. Most of my viewers are older women. I mean, we don't have the wherewithal to do anything dramatic. So what can we do? And I drew very heavily from Stefan Schwartz and Greg Olear and people that I've talked to who are really wise, and so let me think. Yeah, somebody wrote to me about their mother-in-law who was a narcissist, and her husband was being played. The mother-in-law bought the house across the street.
Oh, that is so typical. I want to take care of the kids and be close to family. And you're like,
oh, no, she doesn't want to take care of the kids. She's in competition with the child,
Right.
And the husband,
that's what they would say.
Yeah, the husband's tortured because he always feels, his mother and poor her, and I need to help her. And so that was, that was very interesting. Yeah. The narcissist in my life, very sad they died. It's okay.
Recently?
No, long time ago. No love lost.
Helen.
Pardon me?
Yeah. I said, on that note, Helen, I'm going to,
Well, you have to be real.
It really is hard. It's not, it's not even a laughing matter, even though sometimes it can be. It's serious. It's nice when you can joke about it. Yeah.
Well, it's all better.
Right. When you get to the point where you can laugh about it, you're in.
Yeah. So what are we asking about Trump? I'm stirring up the cards here.
I already think he's going to jail. I don't think that I don't think that we want to put a president. I don't think we want to put a president in jail or former president in jail and make a mockery of our own country like that. So I don't think it will be maybe like house arrest. I think he'll get really sick before that happens.
Let's ask the cards, will it matter? In the 30s, Eugene Debs was a labor activist and a socialist, and he was arrested. I think they manufactured a case against him. They really did. I mean, not just in a Trumpian kind of way, but they really did. And
they really did,
he was
actively.
In prison, and he ran for office from prison. Full campaign, Okay, so the question is are these felonies, the situation, whatever that?
I almost feel like when you said, does it matter? I was thinking of like how sick he is already. Like the dementia is coming. I hear he's incontinent a lot, from his years and years of Adderall use. And by the time it all comes around, like I actually wonder like how sick he is.
Look at these cards.
All right, let's go.
So
let's sit up for this one.
So look at this. This young woman, I'm going to try to remember her name. Oh, the high priestess. This young woman is actually a real person, and she was used as the model for political stuff at the turn of the century,
Okay.
turn of the last century. Her first name was Inez.
Okay.
She
Okay.
was a suffragette, a political activist, really remarkable woman. And
Yeah.
I can't remember her last name. It starts with a B. I can't remember
Okay.
it. But
Okay.
it's
That's enough
significant.
information.
I think that this to me says that his abuse of women, his pushing for judges and legislation that are hurting women, I think that may be the significant factor. I don't think
Late stage syphilis.
the seven
For
of
entertainment
swords,
purposes only. Oh my God.
and then the 5 of wands. It's going to
Oh.
cause more unrest. He's going to try to get away with whatever he can get away with, and I think the women are coming after him. I heard today that the
That looks
panel
very
of,
much like a judgment.
yeah,
She's
the
got
panel
that.
of, yeah, the hermit having to be isolated and
Oh my God. Were those all in order? Did you show them to me all in the order? You put them down?
I shuffled them. I
No,
shuffled
but
them.
was it Inez?
Yeah, I drew. That was
the
as I
5,
drew.
then
Yeah,
the 7, and
yeah,
then the
yeah,
my goodness.
yeah.
And then
that's
the
how they
hermit
came.
was the last one.
Yeah. And then look what's at the bottom of the deck, which is so funny because we talked about this earlier when I was showing you the different cards. The Queen of Cups. It's women. I'm telling you.
The
I think
divine feminine, baby. The divine feminine.
Yeah. I don't think the felonies, like per se, I don't think that the white collar type stuff that he's done is going to make a bit of difference to his followers. I think what's going to happen is women are going to be fired up. Now, does that mean here's what I keep getting though, and I'm sorry, I have to say it. He may very well not get the popular vote, but that doesn't mean he's not going to steal, allegedly, the position, because all the mistakes they made in the 2020 election have been fixed. They have placed judges where they need them. Look at the Supreme Court. They have placed I always say this wrong, mifepristone, the drug for the morning after pill, basically, is what it is.
Okay.
So how did that come to the Supreme Court? How did that get to be a national thing? What they did was they placed Trumpian judges. Judges are supposed to be neutral, but we know the truth. They placed them wherever they could. And they found the one that they knew would go along with them. A very young man, barely 40, not very experienced at all, but extremely right wing, in the middle of rural Texas. And they took a case to his courtroom and challenged it, fought the case, and knew that it would get sent up to the appeals court, and knew that because the judges in the appeals court are conservative, they knew that this was a way they go judge shopping. So
of course.
Here's all it would take. All it would take would be a situation where doubt was cast on the results from a pivotal state, handed to the Supreme Court, they send it to the House of Representatives, it's over. Because how that works is each state has a percentage of Republicans and Democrats, and it's adjudicated like a Democratic state or a Republican state, and that's how they decide. And there are more Republican-leaning states in the House of Representatives. That's the official process.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to be.
I hope not. I hope not.
I didn't think so in 2016, but
I knew he was going to win.
I knew that he had cheated when that's the first thing. We said, he's Trump was elected, and I thought they were joking. And they're like, no, I'm serious. And I said, he stole it, period. He stole it. And then now he's finally being charged for trying to rig the election and the voting machines and all that stuff. So I'm hoping that we've got enough information on the voting machines and stealing the election. And I mean, how many people are being charged with that? Like 16 people. 16 people are being
I don't
charged
know the
with
number.
voter
I know
fraud.
it's ridiculous. Yeah.
A lot of people in several different states, key states. So I don't know if people want to help him with that because they could be next on the list. These other people who are being charged now never thought they'd be caught. So I'm hoping that goes a long way because, of course, they're going to try to cheat and
2016, my next door neighbor had a voting day party because they were sure that Hillary was going to win. And I went over, and about 2 hours into this party, so it was like, 8 o'clock at night, I said, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go to bed. And she said, don't you want to celebrate with us? And I said, Trump is going to win. And oh my God, they were so mad at me. They just were like, oh God, bring, your own wet blanket to the party, Helen. Yeah, I said, no, I hate to tell you, that's why I'm going to bed, because I can't watch it happen, And when I woke up in the morning, I was like, okay.
Yeah, such a downer.
Here we go.
You're like,
yeah.
I read. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we ask the cards really quickly what we can do? Like how do we cope with this? This is the advice of the angels cards. I don't mix my cards. I don't mix my Republican and my Democratic cards. I have those nice cards.
I'd love to get that card.
That deck, the USA deck.
Yeah, I'd love to get a card about what we can do, because I feel like
I'm not using that card because it's tainted by bad vibes now. I'm using the angels.
All right, good.
And we do.
We have to remember to call on our angels. Yeah, what? Tell me.
Okay, keep in mind, this is a totally different deck of cards, right? And you heard me shuffle, right? We can take some time and be introspective and look within. We can look for the guiding light of our consciousness and our intuition. We can be guided by our inner knowing. Each of us has that love energy inside, and we need to focus on that. And that doesn't mean
we can focus on our own illumination.
I've heard people say, well, this is not really happening in my world. I don't want to put that negative energy out there. Baloney. If you have neighbors who are gay, or because I have my good friends who live up the street have been harassed. It's really terrible. I had a neighbor that had to move away because he was here for work for 2 years, a young kid, African-American. They had to transfer him because he was threatened. This is a very conservative little neighborhood. When things like that are going on around you, that's not the time where you crawl into your little cave and bury your head and pretend you don't know. That's the time when you speak out, and you have to get real with yourself that you're not your body, you are your soul. You're the love energy that's inside of you is what matters. It's not about protecting. Don't protect you try to protect your neck. That's not what it's about. And if doing the right thing gets you into trouble, you've done the right thing. You've done the right thing.
You have to take a stand.
This is my validation card, the sun.
Wait, what is that? Is that the sun?
That's the sun.
The hermit
and the sun. I think that pretty much tells you what we can do. Don't you think?
I love that. So the original hermit, they say, had the sands of time, and then it turned into the light. Have you heard that?
No, but I love that. That's so interesting.
It was the sands of time, and I think
kind of like Father Time, that whole kind of metaphor.
Yes, the time and the cycles, and one day at a time.
Yeah.
This is what I think of too, and not getting your nervous system all bent out of because of one person. Hopefully just one person was so bad that it is tipping the scales that we have to focus and pay attention, but not let it dysregulate us, coming back to our center. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's what you're doing. Yeah.
Like surprises. I need to know.
No,
Not everybody
no,
needs to know,
no.
but it's
Yeah.
this delicate balance between
Yeah.
awareness and not being obsessed. And it is possible to strike a balance, but it's
you can't be ignorant. That's true.
As out of balance, right? If you refuse to deal.
Yeah.
And I've heard some people just I don't want to hear about it. My own children, I don't want to hear about it. Well, one of these days, if you wake up and you're on the way to the gulag, I told you so. You just need to realize that there's nothing special about the United States and the people of the United States, other than the fact that we've maintained something of a democracy for most of the people, but not all of the people, for longer than any other country ever has. But we're still human, and we're not any different than any other people ever. And same motivations, same weaknesses, same flaws, same strengths.
Human.
We're
human.
And just because it happened a long time ago to somebody else doesn't mean it can't happen to us. We need to really understand that and prepare ourselves to do the right thing. That's all I can say. Like Stefan Schwartz says, it's all those little choices you make all day long with the people around you. And, when you decide not to kick the dog, those good choices.
That's right. Or like
I don't
Jesus
ever kick my dog.
Jesus told me, I think last year when I was channeling Yeshua, well, I think he said sometimes he says Jesus, other times he says Yeshua, is if you must fight with light and love. If you must fight with light and love. And do the right thing. Sometimes you have to stand up for what is right, but always coming from your heart, always coming from a place of goodness and picking your battles.
And sometimes the right thing is to speak up when you see injustice. And you're not going to see injustice if you don't keep your eyes open. So you have to keep your eyes open. You have to remain aware. And a lot of people are thinking, well, November will come and go and then we're good. It'll be fine again. No, because Project 2025 is being unrolled as we speak. I'm going to do a video I just researched today about Oklahoma. The superintendent of schools in Oklahoma has decided that the Bible is an historical document and should be used in not just the 10 Commandments. He wants everyone to have a Bible at their desk. So what if you are a Jewish child? What if you're an atheist child? What if you're a Muslim child? What if your family is Baha'i? So all these children are going to feel marginalized, not good enough, singled out. This is not good. This is just not good.
Right. Yeah. In lots of ways, I feel like no matter who wins, we have so far to go in raising our consciousness and raising our awareness of consciousness, and loving each other and not judging each other. But it doesn't mean to not discern,
Can I please still judge, because really that's my hobby.
you can do whatever you want. I choose to see Trump and others like him as the great awakeners.
I like that. I look at him as the 2-year-old that he is, the damaged 2-year-old. I feel really sorry for him, because
we can have compassion for that, but also put that 2-year-old in a timeout when possible and prevent it from doing damage.
You wouldn't give him the keys to the car, right?
Correct. Correct. Send them all love and light. Send them all love and light.
And vote against him.
All of them. It doesn't mean we're sending them power. And do practical things too. But to me, that's a practical thing, to send love and light, to be thankful and grateful that so many are waking up and so many are voicing. And gays are not hiding in the closet anymore. Right? I don't think as much. We were going to keep that going.
I do not. understand this whole thing. Did you know that trans people make up fewer than 1% of the population? Why are they singling them out to torture them? It's ridiculous.
Well, you know the answer to that. You know the
I do,
answer to
I
that.
know,
You know,
but
they
I
pick
can't
on they
stand
pick on
it.
the handicapped one, or they pick on the weakest one. You
Yeah.
know, and that's what they do. It's just what they do. It is just what they
It's
do.
not
They're
even
spending time like
logical,
going, yeah, that's just what they do. But oh, this is the other thing I was going to tell you, Helen. I just saw a snippet of where Trump said that the immigrants are taking all the black jobs.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
I took like 30 pages of notes. I was writing so fast, I just because
It was
I was
like
like, what the hell is that?
incredible. So there's a comedian on Instagram, and he was like, "Oh, black jobs." Oh my God, and he made it. I just think it's beautiful how people can laugh at it and come back at it now. And he's just a all right, I'm being mean now. I was just going to say he's such a fool.
Well, what I found the most disturbing was the return at every opportunity to the millions and millions of people from mental hospitals and prisons pouring across the border, and they're killing and they're raping.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? That's just ridiculous. Just so ridiculous.
Yeah. And then, of course, DeSantis flying people up to Massachusetts, to Martha's Vineyard. Did you read that article? I think
because that's Christian.
that
That's what Jesus would do.
Yeah, flew them all up in the middle of the night, and then had journalists and photographers there waiting. And so now he's getting sued for that. Like these people just. Anyway, I think
there was an article. There was a big article in the paper last week, like a Sunday thing, and it was about particular individuals who were living in tents in church parking lots, who had come from other countries and were asylum seekers, and they were profiling them so that you could understand. Some of them came from the Congo. This one guy and his wife, they had a child. Well, she's pregnant now, but they had an infant, and back home she was pregnant again, and he wasn't going along with whatever this paramilitary gang type activity was in their little village, and they kidnapped her and raped her, and she had a miscarriage. And they just decided, we can't do this, they're going to kill us, so they went through this arduous trip that they went to South America and all the way up, and they went through
but they're coming here for welfare.
Oh, it's just horrifying. And then another guy was coming from somewhere in Central America, and I don't remember where, but it was the same story. They were fleeing from an organized crime syndicate working in their neighborhoods. He was a doctor, and they kidnapped his
that
wife.
We will never know. Horrors that
exactly.
We will never
They showed up at the hospital. He was working on a woman who was having a C-section. They showed up to kill everybody there, including this woman, including the baby, including the doctor. And as luck would have it, one of the guys with one of the guns recognized him from their childhood and grabbed him, took him aside, and said, "Get out of here and don't stop running." And he went and got his wife and child, and they came to the United States. These are the stories, and there's many of them. I just don't remember, as many as I read. I read a number of them. These are not people here to take your jobs. They're not here to take advantage. These are people just trying to live their lives.
Yeah, and those criminals who are the heads of the gangs and everything else, they like it over there. They're staying over there. They're staying in those countries because that is what they do. That is
they're not all flooding up here. Flooding across the borders. Like just the rhetoric is so extreme.
They're enjoying. Yeah, for
terrible.
Sure. Well, I have a prayer group every Thursday night with my friend Rose, who also channels Jesus, the ascended masters, and all that kind of stuff. So if you ever want to come to our prayer group, or
Oh,
anyone
thank
who's
you for the
listening to
invitation.
this,
That's so nice of you.
we definitely, we just open the Akashic records and pray literally for world peace and send that out. And you know,
I'll tell you, I
we
belong
believe it
to
helps.
a class, a psychics class, and we do meditations and without
Beautiful.
saying too much, because
Yeah.
we came out of this meditation the other day crying.
Yeah.
It's just been a lot. It's a lot to deal with.
It is a lot.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to acknowledge, I think we need to acknowledge that it is very hard, but that's why we're aware of these connections, because those are our support. Form a group, a support group of friends that you can depend on. And that goes a long way. It really does. I'll save you a seat in the gulag.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I hope I bunk with you.
Oh,
All right.
God.
Thank you so much, Helen.
You won't be happy if I'm there and you're there and you got something to eat, boy. I'll be. Thank you so much for having me, Jody. It was really fun. Next time you come on my channel.
Really glad. Okay.
And we'll gossip about somebody.
Deal.
Love you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I love you too. Okay.
Bye.